Hey guys, today we are talking to Lynn Raridon. It's going to be a great episode, so come along with us and leave us some comments in the video below if you have questions. We'd love to answer those for the next time.
So this is like our little handout that we put out, and it covers everything from our lubes to, how to wear a cock ring to no surprise anal, Kegel.
Yeah.
I brought you a couple of really awesome lube samples that we've got. Uber Lube is my personal favorite. That's a silicone-based lube.
Okay.
So, and we can open that up. And then, of course, we've got our fabulous Pure Backdoor Fun.
Yes.
And then a vibrating cock ring.
Wow, you hooked me up.
I'm hooking you up. I did bring one more thing. I can't give it to you because it's my demo.
Okay.
It's so funny. How many people you know who walk in and pull?
Well, I'm excited for a new cock ring.
Yeah.
I just got into those this last year. So.
That one is the vibrating one, and I like it. It's silicone, and I hope I put this in my purse. I did. How many people walk in with a vibrating prostate stimulator?
Wow.
But there it is. So, and it's remote controlled. It's solid silicone, completely contained, submersible. It's awesome. It's from a company we really like, Spockham. So,
Well, cool.
totally.
Well, to get started, I'm going to have you introduce yourself to
Okay.
our audience
Okay.
and kind of give a little bit of backstory of who you are and
Okay.
what we're here to talk about today.
Great.
Cool.
What are we here to talk about?
Really
today?
anything.
Just
so,
anything?
Yeah, so I really wanted to get into, obviously, your experience being in Austin, maybe just touching on how Austin has changed since the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And then your experience working in, sex toys. This
Yeah.
is definitely a topic that I've always kind of shied away from, thinking that maybe it was not for me, but
Right.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
I've only just kind of dipped my toe in recently, so kind of eager to learn what you can
It's
kind
so
can
fun
teach
that you
me.
mentioned that, dipping your toe, because that's one of the analogies we use. We use it for everything, predominantly for BDSM.
For sure.
Because a lot of people are like, oh,
Definitely one toe at a time.
what is that? And we're like, you know what? It's all like an ocean. It's how far do you want to wade in?
Yeah.
Do you want to put your toe in? We can help put your toe in. If you want to go up to your neck, we'll help you get up to your neck. So.
Yeah. I also definitely want to talk about your experience with the drag community. Here.
Absolutely.
I'm a
And
huge fan of drag, so.
Well, it's interesting because we interface more with the burlesque community because that's my background.
Gotcha.
Right, but
They overlap.
they completely overlap.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
it's like we have got a couple, we've got a drag number or two. It's like a drag burlesque
Yeah.
numbers that are going to be, at the festival. So there's an amazing crossover there.
We'll definitely touch on that then.
Yeah,
Cool.
brilliant.
So if you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and
So my name is Lynn Raridon, and I am the owner, along with my sister Jerry, of Forbidden Fruit. We are Austin's sex-positive pioneers, and we've been helping to keep it kinky since 1981. And that's when Forbidden Fruit was founded. It was actually founded by a friend of mine in the punk rock scene. His name is Mark Garfinkel. Sorry, Mark, I just outed you. He's an attorney in Virginia now. But anyway, I knew Mark from the punk rock scene, and I was actually working up on the drag. I'm not sure what it is now, but it was the old Varsity Theater, which was our art house cinema. And the owner and manager knew that I was a punk and knew the guy who opened Forbidden Fruit, and we were showing a film called The Fruits of Passion. So he's like, Lynn, go down there and talk to your buddy and see if they'll do a cross promo. So I did, and Mark was like, oh my God, Lynn, I had no idea you cleaned up so well, and what a great presentation, and you need to come work for me. You don't really have a spot in the store right now, because at that point in time, the store was open from like noon to 5, like Thursday through Sunday. I think on the weekends they stayed open till 9. But he's like, but I'm starting this new concept in Austin. It's called the home party cell.
Oh.
So he was a true pioneer. Not only did he come in and start this business, which its primary goal was at that point in time to provide another outlet for people who didn't want to have to go into a porn palace to explore options in the intimacy enhancement market. But he also realized people, predominantly women at that point in time, wanted this stuff brought to their homes. So, you know about all those other businesses out there that you've probably heard about, who I will not promote. But basically, we started that concept here in Austin in 1982. And so that's how I got started. And then when I graduated from UT, yes, Hickam, class of 83, I have a BFA in dance.
Wow.
from the University of Texas. So it was crazy, right? But it's so wonderful because a gentleman, a dear friend of mine, Gene Minger, who was our artistic director for the dance company I was with, Dee McCandless and the Invisible Ink Dance Company. Mark came to me because he knew he was about to get his law degree and he wanted to leave and go back East Coast, which is where he's from. Gotcha. And I was really torn because I was like, I want to be a professional dancer. I want to be a dancer and a choreographer and all that. And Gene, at that point in time, he's like, Lynn, you need to buy this store. It'll finance your dance habit. And he was absolutely right. So I did. I purchased the store from Mark in 1987 and have just kind of taken it forward to build. I'm building more upon us being a community resource. That's where I see us. Yes, of course, we're a retail and a commercial establishment. But at the end of the day, we're also there to give people as much information as we can so they can make a really good, positive, informed decision about what it is they want, need, or are looking for. So, yeah, in addition to that, I was adjunct faculty at Austin Community College for 25 years.
Really?
Yeah, I taught dance and movement, and of course I had to teach aerobics and yoga and all sorts of stuff. But I got to use my dance background in that, but consequently, I'm a teacher at heart. When I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a teacher. So I wanted to be a teacher and I wanted to be a dancer. And guess what? I got to do both.
There you go.
So, yeah. So it was great. But it was because of my background in education, we also started doing workshops, sex positive, obviously adult themed workshops, which we started in 1995. And we still do to this day.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So a question I have is something that I get asked by people all the time because I often say I'm sex positive. And everyone kind of has their own, I think, definition or what that means to them. So how would you sort of describe what sex positive means to you? And when you're educating people in the community, what does that mean when you try to explain I'm sex positive or we're sex positive? It's
the positive way of saying I would rather say sex positive than shame free.
Yes.
Right. So shame is the word that, it comes to a lot of people's mind or their thoughts or their feelings when they're thinking about sex or even their own sexuality.
Absolutely.
And so for us, being sex positive is creating an open, honest, comfortable, safe, welcoming, shame-free environment for people to come in and ask those questions. Anything that's related to people exploring their sensuality as well as their sexuality and their ways to enhance their intimacy and their intimate enjoyment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people too, including myself, never really thought about how much exploring your sexuality with your partner can do for your relationship. The problem often for me is that I'm usually pretty easily entertained. It doesn't take much for me, I'm pretty vanilla. And so that's not always the case for the person that you're with.
Right.
And you don't also realize what else you like if you don't try it. So that's kind of what phase I'm in right now is like, what toys should we try together? And kind of figuring out what things we want to explore. I still get a little bit nervous and a little shame from my just conservative upbringing growing up in the South, even when I walk in the sex store, which is so funny because if you saw my persona on Instagram, it's like me shirtless everywhere. You think I'm this like crazy sexual person. And I even say sex positive on my, bio or whatever.
Right.
But really it's about breaking stigma and breaking shame. And even a constant process that I'm working on every day is like trying to remove that shame that's been plastered to my brain.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you get people coming in saying things like, well, I don't know where to begin, or is this even for me? Can you help me? So how does that typically go for you when someone walks in and they're like, I've never been to a store like this before. What do I do?
I'm glad you bring that up because people have an idea of like the kind of people that actually come into, a shop like ours. And I like to tell people, like, not just anybody shops here, everybody shops here. I have had clergy come in who are looking to get information that they can share. They're forward-minded. Because I've got clergy who are maybe they're doing, couples counseling and stuff. And so they're looking for any tool they can put in their bag to help couples stay together,
Right.
maintain that level of commitment. And so we get all kinds of people in there, every age, every orientation, every ethnicity, every identity, every economic background. And but to this day, even though we know that steps are being made to really destigmatize and make this a much more, open conversation that people can have, there's still so many people out there who it's a struggle.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes everything they've got just to walk through the door. And we kind of tell who those people are, just because if there are other people in the store, they will not. They hover.
Yeah.
They're just kind of around, and we greet everybody that comes through the door. And hi, if you're looking for something special, let us know. We're here to help. And they will wait until the store empties, and then it's okay. So here's what's going on.
Right.
I'm here of my own volition, or I had a friend recommend this, or I read something, or I saw something. And so our job really is to read the people that come in and then try and create the space that they need to engage with the product and with us on a level that's comfortable for them. So that's really just what we try to do. We try to be there, and then there's the series of questions, that you have to ask, because some people are like, I just, want to, know about it all. But then there are people who come in and they're very curious about specific types of play. Maybe they're curious about BDSM. Maybe they're curious about anal play. I mean, which is, I've got to tell you, this is a huge new market for hetero and homosexual. People wrongly believe that all homosexual males engage,
Right.
In some form of anal intercourse, and that's just not the case.
True.
We have plenty of people coming in across the spectrum, and it's like, no, I'm not interested in that at all. Now, maybe my partner is, so how do I do that? But we're seeing tons of hetero people come in, which is why we teach a workshop on it now.
Yeah.
All about anal.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I think, as a physician, people often turn to Google and they will Google their symptoms and come to me and say, this is what I saw on Google. What do you think? And so I think a lot of people don't realize that they have the access to speaking to a professional in their community, similar to a leader like a physician. You're a leader in this field, and I'm sure that Google has some quality information. Just like in medicine, there's quality information on Google. But just knowing that you have a free resource you can swing by, all of the products are there. It's really great for the community to know you exist and know how they can get to you.
And that's what we try and put out there, most definitely, because that's what we want. Our one of our mottos is, stay safe to play safe.
Yeah.
So that's what we want. We want people engaging in a really safe, sane, and consensual manner, so that whether it's self-exploration, because you can self-harm, obviously, and not mean to, and particularly when it comes to, any type of, anal play. A lot of people don't realize that's thinner tissue. It's highly absorptive tissue. People will come in and they're like, oh, well, I heard something about doing enemas, and we're like, oh, you have to be be so careful, with what you're doing with stuff like that, as well as not understanding. We've actually had to go in and make sure that we've got the toys in specific areas, because we have had people come in and they think they can use just a regular vibrator for anal play, and it's like, oh, no, you can't.
Right. Not quite the shape you're looking for.
And maybe not the shape, and let's face it, a lot of these vibrators do not have, let me just pull up my little toy. They have to have some kind of a flanged base, because as you know, that's a vacuum back there, right?
Yes.
So it's like I tell people, it's why your colon doesn't fall out, right? I mean, it's like it's a wind tunnel. There's compression. It's like, so anything that goes in there, like that's why you hear and people joke about it, but it's really no laughing matter, because we've had ER nurses come in and say, you wouldn't even believe what we have extracted.
Yeah.
Because people are thinking, thinking, oh, but that was so big. And it's like, yeah, no, once it starts pulling it in, it's pulling it in.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we have seen crazy stories, when I worked in the ER during residency and clinical rotations, and we'd see, patients come through, and of course I'd be the token gay, like that worked, especially in my residency programs. They'd be like, did you see that guy in there? I'm like, first of all, just because I'm gay doesn't mean you need to come seek me out. I'm sure there are other people in this hospital that do anal, so you can go talk to them too.
You could probably put that out there, and you might be surprised how many people would be like, oh, all about that.
Exactly. So, but it's great to know. I think that's important information. People often do use household items when they don't have toys. We've seen remotes. We've seen tools.
Yeah.
We've seen all kinds of carrots, cucumbers.
No, absolutely. And so that's why, once again, we really work hard to position ourselves as like a resource. And we've had some people pop in and go like, hey, we're curious about kink. It's like, oh, here we go. Well, here's like the listing of the current kink groups that are, here in Austin. Have this little, handout, and it'll, tell you who's out there and who's, doing play parties and who's doing just predominantly, educational, get-togethers and stuff like that. So we're not there to put a product or the most expensive product in your hand, because we feel like that's how we build trust in the community. And when it comes to this subject matter, trust is key, which is why you mentioned something really important, which is communication. Yeah. It is so hard for people to talk about this, sometimes even talk about it with themselves.
For sure.
I mean, so that's one of the first places we try and start with is like, hey, before you even have this conversation with a partner, have this conversation with yourself. Get a toy and experiment with it, because that's the other beautiful thing about it is you can use these to show a partner, this is what I like. Yep. And maybe even in a nonverbal way, because for some people, having to verbalize, during intimacy is difficult and uncomfortable. So it's like, here, I'm just going to show you how this works. Yeah. Here's what I like. Do this, do that, For sure. So there's so many positives to it, as well as safe. It's just so safe. These toys are made out of, super hypoallergenic substances like silicone. A lot of people are like, oh, silicone. It's like, well, here's the thing. This toy, whether you're using it topically or inserting it into an orifice, is not going to cross the blood barrier. Right. It's not, it's not emanating, it's not, it's not like our skin, which is just sloughing off constantly. This is like a completely inert substance. Right. So it's really great for clean. It's so easy to clean. Sure. The only thing we tell people is don't use a silicone lubricant on it, because that does elicit a chemical reaction.
Right, silicone and silicone.
On a molecular level, it tries to bond with itself. So now don't get me wrong, you can do it. Just clean the toy pretty quickly.
It's going to get cakey, right?
It's going to get what we say is like greasy. It makes the toy look just kind of like, greasy and over a period of time. And that's because there is a chemical reaction happening there if you haven't, gotten it off. You could probably get away with using a really high quality hybrid. Mm-hmm. A hybrid lube is a water-based lube, and maybe it's just got a modicum of silicone in it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So for people at home who have toys that they've, randomly bought on the internet and they still are like too shameful to talk about them and they don't know how to clean them, I think of an episode of this show that I watched called Broad City. This girl, she gets in a new relationship with a guy and he wants to be pegged. I don't know if that's the phrase that we use here.
Pegging, absolutely. So, you bet. We used to teach we've taught a workshop on that too.
Yeah, and so she's like, okay, it takes her a minute, but she gets into it, and then after the experience, they have a really bonding moment, and like she's thinking, we're going to be together forever. Mm-hmm. So the guy goes to work, and she decides to clean up, and she puts the dildo into the dishwasher, which melts it.
Okay. Yeah, because obviously it was probably latex or a rubber product. So the great thing about silicone is you can put that in the top rack of your dishwasher, as long as there are no mechanical components.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I would not put this toy I showed you in there because it's a vibrator. But a dildo, and that's where we also educate people. People are coming in going like, well, I'm looking for a dildo. And what they're actually looking for is a vibrator. non-vibrating items that tend to veer more towards looking anatomically correct. So, and a lot of people come in for that. Now, we sell a whole variety of those, and some of them actually do have little openings at the bottom that you can insert like a vibrating bullet,
Sure.
you know, or something into. But yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you can. Because here's the other cool thing about silicone. It's a conductor. The longer it stays in contact with your body, it will begin to absorb and maintain and radiate the warmth from your body.
Wow.
So you can warm it up. It's another reason why people really like the glass toys.
Gotcha. Yes.
That we sell, because we tell people these are really great because, yeah, they're really easy to clean. You can use just about anything
Right.
on them. They're Pyrex grade, usually glass. You still don't want to drop them. They can chip and they can crack. But yeah, super easy to clean.
Yeah.
And conductors.
Yeah.
Those will conduct both heat and cold.
I
So
personally think the glass ones are pretty to look at as well. They
they're
have great
really, really
designs.
beautiful. Yeah.
I
and-
like anything glassware type though.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, but if people come in and they're interested, and like, we'll just point that out because a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, I like it because it's pretty and
Right.
it seems like, you know, really safe. And they like maybe the heft or the weight of it or whatever. But we also say, and you know what? You can explore temperature play
Sure.
with this. You can, now don't microwave it and don't put it in the freezer for goodness sake.
Yeah.
But get a glass of, you know, cold water with ice cubes in it and it'll cool it down, you know.
So for people out there who are a little more vanilla like myself, but they want to try something new with a toy and maybe their partner is also quite vanilla, how do they break the ice? Do people ever ask you like, how do I mention this to my partner? How do I show them that I want something more or not offend them or not scare them?
Great question. And here's honestly what we recommend. What we have learned over time is what makes people uncomfortable is the concept of introducing something foreign.
Right.
It's
Always.
something outside of just me, my body, my hands, my genitalia, whatever. It's the fact that suddenly this foreign thing is coming in. So I tell people, start with innocuous household objects
Right.
that are non-threatening.
Yes.
Start with a Q-tip.
Yeah.
Take this Q-tip and just dip it in a little bit of oil and use that to go around nipples or I'm just going to start with something incredibly innocuous, this
Yeah.
Q-tip, and I'm going to introduce this
Somehow.
into our intimate play, right?
Right.
And so, start with things like that, then maybe move to a scarf, and I'm just going to blindfold you now and do a 9.5 weeks and sit you in front of the refrigerator and feed you and play. You know what I mean? Start with real innocuous household objects to introduce a foreign item into the intimate play. Then go in and start with small things. Maybe a small little bullet vibrator that you can now use to put anywhere on any person. One of the questions we will get gay males coming in and saying, well, what have you got for me? And I'm like,
everything.
It's for everybody. It doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is.
Right.
But see, that's another thing. That's another thing that society has stigmatized the vibrator as being for, vaginas and clitorises only. And it's like, oh, no, au contraire, This is great right at the glands, at the base of the penis, the most sensitive, area there, right?
Right.
If you take something like that and, massage that can even potentially help with getting and establishing an erection.
Absolutely.
Is something to, send some blood flow, because we all know that that's what an erection is.
Right.
It's circulation.
Yes.
It's getting blood down into the penis,
Right. Right.
So, and then finding a way to actually encourage that, to happen, or just put it right there at the perineum, and where you've got a little external stimulation there where the prostate gland is, or a single digit in there to stimulate it, you know?
So a lot of my straight friends are terrified of the perineum area. They don't want to even consider their partner going anywhere near that direction. And some of their partners want to. Some of their partners want to enhance climax, and maybe they've done it with their previous partners.
Right.
So how do we reach out to these people who are really missing out, you know, on a whole pleasure center that could be putting them at a next level with their relationship with themselves personally? Just even your own intimate experience with yourself can be even better just by trying to explore something new. So do you ever have people come in saying, my partner won't let me go near his booty?
And I'd like to go near the booty. You know, that one's really difficult because let's face it, there's a lot of stigma, you know, surrounding that. It's like people thinking immediately, you know, because they might want anal stimulation, they're gay. And it's like, and so my first question is, well, first of all, what's wrong with being gay? Okay, so really? That's what you're worried about? Come on, you know.
I know.
So, you know, at the end of the day, that's one of the more difficult things that we deal with. And so there's not a short and a quick, easy, you know, answer or fix for that. What we really need is we need more people out there in society who are role models, putting that information out there.
Right.
And saying, we used to advertise on a sports network. And I went on there once, and I was so proud of one of the hosts because, I mean, you know, and this was about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, right? And this subject came up, and he just flat out, now he did it kind of like, I had a friend who said, but in my mind, I'm looking at him going like, it was you.
It was you.
You know, he was kind of like, no, he told me he did it. And right at the moment of climax, you know, his partner stimulated his prostate, and he said it was like a rocket ride to the moon. And I just looked at him, I'm like, I am so proud of you for putting this out here on this, like, really, you know, masculine based, potentially, we've probably got some homophobes out there, you know, listening to this, and to hear somebody just say, no, I have heard this straight friend of mine say he did it, and it was just like, you know, so more of that.
It can be
more of that.
For sure. It's interesting because I treat so many men with erectile dysfunction, and so we're constantly prescribing medication, which obviously is a great benefit, increasing that blood flow. But what I want to say is, have you tried perineal play? But it's such a controversial topic. And, you know, it makes people feel submissive or feminine, and these to men are two traits that, you know, in society today, they try to reject as hard as possible. And so I'm in this, like, rock and a hard place where I want to provide the education, but the backlash sometimes from patients, especially because I communicate with them a lot over the internet, and so they're texting, and it's very easy to be upset, aggressive, or angry over text. It's much harder when you're talking on the phone or over video, so I have to be careful what I say, because anything that sets them off, even myself, it's so easy for me to text someone all my angry frustration than it is for me to get on the phone and be angry, you know. That's another human listening.
Now you have to, you know,
now you have to respond to their response.
You have to respond, and so the diplomacy factor immediately kicks in, because you're absolutely right. And that's the one thing where, I hate having discussions of any import over, you know, text or email or anything like that, because all it takes is a missing dot, a period or word. It's like, I responded to somebody once like, no, like, it was like, thank you, no, thank you. And I didn't go no, comma, thank you. I just put like no, space, thank you. And they were like, what? Wait a minute, huh?
It's like all their insecurities come out, and they try to interpret your tone. So I totally think that there is a place for texting too. In virtual care, obviously, it lets people feel more comfortable, especially with a sexual topic like discussing erectile dysfunction. So certainly it's great in that aspect, but it has its missing pieces too. But well,
this is a tough one, and this is one that, you know, in my mind, it's just going to take more time, and it's going to take getting out there and getting more people educated about it, and just working hard to continue to destigmatize it, because Yeah, I mean, it's one of the number one things that we get people coming to the store asking about, and I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah.
You know, gay, straight, male, female, non-binary. There are people. Everybody is coming in, going, "I'm curious about this," because people with vaginas, you know, we've had people go like, "Well, what's the benefit of that? Why would I don't have a prostate?" It's like, well, you know, actually, those two canals mirror each other for a certain, you know, space and time. And actually, the wall between them is somewhat, you know, conductive. And so we have heard, you know, people say that, yeah, if I actually insert and put a vibrating, you know, butt plug in there, I can actually feel it emanating through the walls, and it increases my sense of fullness in the front. It enhances pleasure. Yeah. So,
you know, I think there's a very common misconception. I'm obviously not a female or a person with a vagina, but I have a lot of female friends or people with vagina friends who have been adamantly interested in anal sex. They talk about it all the time. I think they think it's something that we can relate about, so they bring it up to me. But in high school, going back, there's this really random story. This is my first encounter with someone listening to them talk about anal sex. There was this girl named and she actually had the nickname Anal. And this is in high school.
Oh, my word.
But she,
okay, that is bold. Yeah.
Exactly. At the time, really I thought it was very shocking. I mean, I was like 16. But she owned it. She embraced it. Right. She loved it. That's what she was literally known for in high school. But, you know, I think that made other girls her age and around her open mind to it, because obviously you're exploring your sexuality in high school. And, you know, it's very interesting now looking back, and my reaction to that was so like visceral and conservative. And I mean, we were in a Christian private school, so to hear anal quite
like, wow. Okay.
But now, you know, I'm Anal Tyler, so here we are.
Yeah, you go. I mean, and that's what I tell people. It's like, figure it out and then, you know, own it. I mean, as a person who's now reaching a certain age, that's one of the other things I really try and, you know, express to my younger friends is like, God, you know, own it. Just figure out what it is and own it. It's like, this is my package.
Exactly.
This is, you know,
this is what I have to offer. This is who I am.
This is what I am. This is what's going to work. This is what's not going to work.
It's so empowering.
It's incredibly empowering.
And for me, I'm on this constant journey of ridding shame from being gay, not fulfilling what I think my parents wanted for me in my life, all those things that we get growing up. And so I constantly try to be more accepting of who I am, great with my quirks. And so spreading those out and being open with those, I think other people just get more accepting with their own quirks and their own weirdness.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly what the world needs more of.
Yes, because we're all weird.
Yeah. It's like people who are just, absolutely. And that's, you know, shame-free. It's like, now don't get me wrong, I am not going to be overly aggressive with that, but I also don't have any problem with expressing that.
For sure.
You know, and again, owning it and accepting it and embracing it about myself. That's positive for sure.
So how do people get involved with the workshops? What is that process like? Do they need to come to
You know, the process is go online. You can go to our website, forbiddenfruit.com. Our workshops are up there. We also do at-home workshops. So maybe you've got a group of friends and who you want to get together and, you know, explore this maybe in the comfort of your own home. We absolutely do that as well. And we also do after-hours private shopping parties at the store, so we've got all kinds of options. But, pick up the phone and call us. Go to our website. Come in and pick up a flyer. They're all over the place. Come in and ask us questions. Know somebody who's a sex-positive, you know, pioneer-like person. We prefer it's credentialed, you know. Obviously, we don't want just anybody coming off the street going, I could teach that blowjob class. It's like, no. You know, we've got credentialed, even if it's just like our main presenter, which is our general manager, Johnny. He's sexpert Johnny. He's been working in the industry for 15, 20 years and knows the toys and knows, you know, and is studied and is, you know, so, but absolutely. So we also welcome information about that because that's how we bring more people in the community. Sure. People will move here and say, I was, you know, an ASEX certified sex therapist up in blah, blah, blah. And I can, you know, and here's my jam. And it's it's like, oh, yeah, we've got somebody doing that, coming in to teach a class on masturbation. Go fuck yourself. Is the name of the class,
Wow.
which I love.
Incredible.
I hope I can curse. Did I just...
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay, great. I'm sorry.
No, that's a great name.
Yeah, isn't that a great name?
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. And so I think, too, a lot of people think going into a store, especially for me, when I've gone into stores in the past, usually they're large chains. And so I'm not really greeted with someone who really wants to be there, really wants to kind of educate me. And so that is always in the back of my head when I go into a new store. Now I'm like, I don't want to bother anyone. I'm just here. Don't let anyone look at me. I'm just browsing around, and it's a different environment for me still to this day, even though I've purchased toys before. I think I would say I'm on like the medium scale of being, more comfortable. So, how does someone determine what's a good place for them to get started? Should they look for more of like a local type shop where that people may be more
I am always going to encourage
interested?
people that instead of going online, because as you said it before, there's good information, but there's so much more bad information.
Sure.
And if you don't know really where to look and where to drill down on that. And the other thing is like, let's face it, you can look at these toys and these items online, but there's nothing like picking it up and having it right there in your hand. And not only that, you are helping keep small mom and pops like Forbidden Fruit, like our business open. We're a family-owned, woman-owned, and we've only got one store in Austin, but by Jiminy, we've had that store for 41 years, and we know what we're talking about. You're going to walk in, and the first thing we're going to do is offer to help or just give you the space that you need. We're going to encourage you to pick stuff up. We're going to offer to take it out of the package and let you check it out. Folks, you can't do that online. No, you can't, And here's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of our manufacturers and suppliers, these toys have warranties now, and they will not honor them if you buy the toy online. Because there are people out there who are doing bulk buying and reselling. There are counterfeiters out there, believe it or not. A lot of these toys are manufactured overseas, and if some of these overseas houses see a particularly popular an item, they're getting a lot of. They may find a way to make a little knockoff and get it out there on the market. We actually get approached by overseas, companies and. Saying like, hey, buy from us. We make these toys. And I'm going like, yeah, no, I can't. First of all, it's too questionable. Second of all, I mean, the tariffs and waiting for the shipping and all. Right. Yeah, it's problematic. And so, any chance you get, no matter where you are, no matter where you live, find the hometown team and go and support them, because that's what's going to keep our doors open, and that's going to continue to be a resource for you, a place where you can hopefully go in, and they are going to take it out of the package and let you check it out. I'm going to be able to tell you the difference between here's 40 lubes, and 20 of them are silicone, and what's the difference?
Right.
I can tell you the difference between dimethicone and dimethiconol and cyclopentasiloxone, and I can tell you what the different grades are and why, our staff. We are well-trained. We are definitely sexperts. We are there to give you the information and be able to, show you the difference between all of these products. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So some personal questions I have for some products that I have. So I often use the lube Swiss Army.
Swiss Army.
Yeah. Love them.
That's
I don't know.
great.
They're not sponsoring us by any means, but
Yeah.
I love them. Is it a great option for me? Do you know much about that brand?
I do know a lot about that brand. We've been carrying that brand for, 10, 15 years. Yeah, MD Science.
I usually use the water-based.
The water-based, yeah.
Yeah.
No, and they're really working hard to, like everybody, I mean, if you want to stay relevant in this industry, you have to keep expanding.
Right.
Trust me, back in the day, I mean, there were very few. I mean, one of the first lubes that actually came out was Astroglide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it occasionally.
It's still out there. Okay, so here's
I like the little bottle it comes in. It's very great for travel.
fun fact about Astroglide. Do you know how they came up with their name?
No.
Their chemical compound is based upon the same chemical compound of the lubricant that was used on the heat shield of the space shuttle. Yeah.
Well, that's why it's so durable.
People don't realize, but things that are like that. The heat shield has to have some, like your car has oil in the engine. That's a lubricant, right? So not that you would use,
Maybe end of the world.
I don't
need the car to work.
But that's the whole thing. Is so Astroglide, really fun fact. And that was one of those lubes we carried back in the day. We, as a small boutique, we are leaning towards more boutique brands ourselves.
Sure.
So we do definitely carry Swiss Navy. Love that brand. Gave you a little sample of a brand that we like a lot, which is Uber Lube.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, and they're great, and they're strictly silicone, and we like them a lot. Yeah. So, but silicone is an awesome option because it is water resistant, right? So, if you're looking for something that's going to be super long lasting, that's a really great option because it's viable for everything except for maybe oral.
Gotcha.
Right, because you don't want to put a lot of that stuff. Now, a lot of companies out there make, flavored lubes, and they are designed to be, safe for ingestion. And what's also great about that is they're also safe for vaginal intercourse because, sugar is the enemy.
Yes.
Down there, okay? So anything like certain chemicals and, sweeteners and things like that.
For sure.
So Swiss Navy is a really great brand, and they have now branched out to many different types of, everybody's got like their standard water-based, then like their thicker, more gel, but then also an even cleaner one. They're naturals. There are I think there's only one company out there with an actual organic lube on the market, though. Gotcha. So that's System Joe, and we carry their products. And Naked Silk is a really great one if you're into hybrids. That's going to be a predominantly water-based lube that's got just a little bit of silicone. Dimethicone, I think, is the silicone they use. And dimethicone is a pretty broad spectrum.
Sure.
A lot of people don't realize, but it's what's in your lotions, your body lotions. Yeah. It's what gives it that silky smooth, sensation. It's in your hair conditioners. So when people start to get all freaked out about silicone, I'm like, you have no idea how much silicone you're using already.
Right.
It's kind of like corn. You have no idea how much corn you're eating. It's in everything. Yeah.
For sure. Another question I have is, how do I know if I'm getting the right size cock ring? Because sometimes they feel way too tight, but then the erection is better.
Yes.
And then sometimes they feel not as tight, still get a good erection, but can wear it longer.
Exactly. And so, cock rings are one of those things that we always... Again, you got to come up with those gateway.
Yes. Ease in.
The ways to ease in. I would tell anybody who's looking to experiment with it, start with something adjustable.
Yeah.
So there are, your options there are going to be probably like, maybe a leather, and we also sell vegan leather. Huh. So, they're not actual leather, but, the snap style. So they're going to come, and I would say start with a 5 over 3 snap, just because that's going to give you more adjustability. And we always encourage people, experiment with it both ways. But if you want it to be the most effective, it is more effective if you do get it around the scrotum. So I don't know if you're using it just at the base.
I do it all the way around.
All the way around, yeah. That's what I tell people. Is that you want to get the whole package in there, baby.
It's like a nice push-up bra for the testicles.
That's exactly right. But it's like, and of course, obviously, I'm sure you explain this to people. The benefits of it is it puts just enough pressure on that vein.
Yes.
To try and, pinch that backflow out. Right. And, of course, backflow is how you lose the erection. But because it's the vein and not the artery, you've still got arterial access.
Exactly.
Blood can still get in. Right. So, and I always tell people, start with something adjustable. So either like a leather, a 5 snap, a 3 snap, something, and experiment with putting that around everything. Around the base of the scrotum, the whole 9 yards. And then adjust it, and then just wear it for a while to see, how it's going to feel over time. Don't wear it too long. Yes. Because you also don't want to, we're talking about circulation, right? So,
Yes, I've seen the consequences of too much ED medication or taking too much of a hard-on for too long.
Exactly.
And it's two 22 gauge needles going right into the penis to drain it.
To drain it, exactly. And a lot of people we're going to have to go right in there and just let it out.
Yeah.
So I would say experiment with that, and then experiment with the ones that have stretch.
Right.
Right. The one that I gave you is super stretchy. And so for some people, start with the really lighter weight, super stretchier ones, because those are going to also give you an idea of what, pressure, how much pressure, but not too much pressure. And then you can graduate up to some that maybe have like a slightly thicker band on them. Right. So start with like a thinner band, or, up to about, like maybe a quarter, to a half an inch. Start there and work your way up. And again, just wear it. It's kind of like what we tell people who are going to experiment with anal sex. Mm-hmm. That tissue can be trained. I tell people, put the butt plug in and wear it at night. Yeah. Wear it while you sleep and just...
I haven't thought of that, but that's a great idea.
And slowly begin to... Well, it's like we also have a lot of, vagina people come in, and they're dealing maybe with, with vaginismus, or they're dealing with, different issues, and we sell dilator kits.
Right.
And that's the whole point, is put it in and wear it while you sleep, so that you're slowly getting that tissue
to relax
and trained to be able to take a certain level of penetration. So it's like anything. Yeah, that's how you dip your toe in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of patients that I see, especially older patients that have leaky veins, they're being diagnosed with this, but their urologist has never even mentioned a cock ring or something similar to that, because again, this is such a taboo topic for so many of us. And in medicine, we don't talk about sex toys ever. Zero, which is really unacceptable. Mm-hmm. I mean, we already don't talk much about sexual health. We already don't talk much about erectile dysfunction, but then to completely miss out on a way to bring couples together, because sometimes as a family physician, we are the couples counselor.
Yeah.
We're the front line.
We're the front line.
Determining if they need therapy. And so being able to say a few little things, even having educational material to say, maybe go talk to this, sex shop owner, maybe go talk to this person in our community, just to give them the idea, or open the communication or conversation. But again, because things now are so electrifying, people get so upset by a small trigger. I think physicians were also in this place where we just don't want to cause any issue, because we can't always read the patient, right?
Exactly.
Is this person going to get offended?
Right.
And then what happens there? Who do they tell? What do they do with this offense?
Yeah.
And so
it's such a polarizing subject, and that's one of the things. The positives of social media are obviously increased interaction, but then the downside is people will just spank people for no reason. I mean, it's sometimes I'm just like, oh God, I hate these platforms, because you do one little thing wrong
and you're destroyed.
And God, we had a guy come in and bought some lube, and then went back and claimed that he found it for half of what we were charging for it online, and promptly drove back to our store and threw it down in front of our store because we wouldn't take it back. And we're like, no, I'm sorry, I just can't. And then goes on, social media, and just what horrible people we are, and how we completely, scammed them. And I'm just like, wow, okay, John Q. Public, here's our response, and do what you will with this. But I hear what you're saying is it's incredibly polarizing. People can get incredibly, worked up over it. I would say... and there are manufacturers out there who actually started more they refer to it, it's the sexual health industry, right?
Right.
So there are companies out there making products where they are putting them in packaging that's designed to look like, this is not a sex toy, this is a sexual health implement.
Right, almost like a medical device.
That's exactly right. It's a medical device. So and one of the things that we actually try and work hard at our shop is to present products in really the most, I don't want to say generic, but just non-offensive packaging.
Right.
Back in the day, everything was in packages that showed, women and couples, and just like, in the throes of ecstasy on the package, just like, Then we would take everything out, clamshell it, put our own thing out. And it's just like, we just don't even know, because that, first of all, so here's obviously a woman. What if it's not going to be, you know, for a woman? Why is everything geared towards like the heterosexual experience, right? People of all, you know, orientations and potential applications. So I would tell you, you know, do a little homework and go in and see if you can find some of, you know, those things, and then find the places like us to direct people to, like, hey, you know, we're there for you. Again, we're just really easygoing and open and welcoming. And that's one of the biggest compliments we can get, because we have had people come in and go like, wow, I was so nervous and you made this so easy. Now, it probably, you know, doesn't hurt that, you know, for a lot of the people coming in, I'm like the cool older aunt. You know what I mean?
It's a good vibe.
Yeah, but it is. And I will tell you, I've had younger people going like, wow, you made that so.
Right.
You know, at first I was a little like, but hey, and now I'm maybe beginning to wonder, like, could I talk to my parents about this? Maybe they're cooler than I think they are.
It's so funny you mentioned your parents, because again, as I'm going through this process of trying to release my shame and just embrace who I am and my quirks and weirdness, I'm also like almost shocking my mom on a consistent, like time to time basis, because I don't hide anything in my house. Sex toys are not hidden.
Yeah.
Nothing is like off limits. And my mom is often in my house. She helps me do projects all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I used to hide all those things, but she would find them anyways. Yeah. So for me, she knew it was hidden, right? So then she thinks in the back of her head, oh, I'm shamed about either wearing a jock strap or having, you know, a cock ring or lube. So now, because to me, those things are not shameful. They're just embracing my personality and what I like. So I leave them everywhere. So she goes in, but I think it also opens her mind little by little, because, you know, I think that's what I think we want to do. And that's what we're passionate about here and why we're talking today is opening minds.
That's what we want to do. Whatever your options are, whether it's, you know, ED medications, because that needs to. And by the way, there need to be more things on the market for women.
Oh my goodness, you know, that is a huge topic.
It's I know it's because we hear about it, you know, all the time, being in the shop and, you know, the industry and stuff as well. But the good news is I think the market's going to open up, because initially women were not coming in looking for that. We would have women come in and go, well, why don't you guys have this? I'm going like, honestly, nobody's asking for it. Right. So it's that's where it's a capitalist supply and demand economy. Absolutely. We're in here, and if more and more people who identify, you know, female, come in and say, I want this, I'm looking for something along this that's going to work with my chemistry. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a question we always get is, when is the women's product coming out? And of course, women are notoriously more complicated as far as their sexual arousal state and how to achieve orgasm, whereas men, it's like very simple. We just need blood flow. Which is really sad, because it's not fair. You know, and of course, too, the way that things typically go in medicine, men get the priority, right? We always get things for free. ED medications typically covered by Medicaid and Medicare, whereas we can't even get birth control covered for most women. So
that's right. Well, it's
a whole nother topic. We can discuss another day.
It is, and that could get, you know, highly political.
Yes.
It, you know, I mean, our country, fortunately, I think is, you know, we're trying to continue to move in the right direction, but at the end of the day, it's still a white, male, patriarchal society that we live in. Yep. That's still who so many things are still predominantly based on, marketed to, you know, taken care of. So, yeah.
I just tell myself the pendulum swings, and, you know, we go forward and then we go back, and you have to remember that forward is coming back. Yeah. And then those times when we feel like the world is pushing backwards is when we're supposed to be the most vocal, be the most out there, so that we can push it that next direction. And so that's my idea on progress. But I do also want to talk to you about something else you're very passionate about, and that's, of course, the burlesque community.
Yes, the burlesque and drag and just, all, you know, what used to be considered highly alternative, you know, forms, art forms and entertainment. And what most people don't realize is these are, you know, drag obviously not exactly the same as burlesque, but definitely overlaps, and they've both been around for, I mean, let's face it, there have been males impersonating females in performance dating back to Shakespeare's day because women weren't allowed to do theater. So what people don't realize is back in Shakespeare's day,
right.
all the women's parts
We're men.
were played by men.
Yeah.
So it is a long-standing theatrical tradition, and burlesque is certainly, no different, has been around
For sure.
for an incredibly long time. And so I love this art form. I love it because to me, it is just, it's so empowering and so positive because in the world of burlesque, true burlesque celebrates the body in every way, shape, form, and fashion. And
right.
It doesn't matter, again, your age, your size, your color, your orientation. None of that matters. It's about the tease. And every body has a body that they can flirt with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's a form of, mental flirtation.
Yeah. Self-expression.
And self-expression,
and
exactly.
taking on maybe a different persona of yourself.
Totally.
Expressing who that is,
Yeah.
So my partner and I, we got into drag in the most commercial way possible, of course, watching RuPaul's Drag Race.
Oh, of course.
We started watching early in the pandemic. I had seen episodes. A friend of mine, Omar, he always liked to watch it. I never really got that interested previously. I've also sort of been opening my horizon to my queerness in the last probably 4 or 5 years. I've always been more of a wanting to be hyper masculine, afraid of showing any femininity or submissiveness. And again, that goes back to, I think, just where I was raised and how I was raised. And so in that time period of watching RuPaul's Drag Race, it's really empowered me to embrace my femininity and how much strength there is there.
Yeah.
And, takes me back to when I was a kid wearing my mom's high heels and skirts that I would never have told anyone before. But now here I am saying on this podcast. But it's so empowering, and it is so incredible to see people put so much energy and effort into entertaining, going through having to just completely transform yourself, but not only that, make no money, be literally in the most distant corner of what people deem acceptable or successful, and still saying, this is what I love to do, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And of course, we see now the commercialization of drag being so positive in the sense that it educates more of us to be aware. I support all my local drag queens. I love going to local drag shows. We go to Drag Con in LA to support all of the girls.
Nice.
I'm a huge fan. I'm like, I follow them all on Instagram. I treat them like celebrities because in my head, that's like also an interesting way to give back to the LGBTQ plus community. That's our like niche, it's our form of art that we can kind of stamp for ourselves. And so just for me, when my partner, we always say this is like going to church for us because we're not religious, but we like to tithe to our gay community.
Yeah,
and we like
there
to give
you
to
go.
one of the Yada Sophia says, give the queen a fucking dollar. So give the queen a fucking dollar.
Would you, please? No, absolutely. And I love that. And it's one of the things I love about the community and how it embraces, everybody. And again, every body type. And so I, was a formally trained dancer and danced, in a dance company. But I've certainly done my share of burlesque. Different from the burlesque that's out there now, but I mean, certainly even within the group that I was performing with, we used to do a show down on 6th Street called Club Sandwich. And it was a Wednesday night thing, and we invited all sorts of people in, and that's where we would do, a few burlesque numbers mixed in. And so just watching kind of the whole evolution and, where it's been and where it's headed, I adore it. And I tell people, you're not going to find a more welcoming, shame-free, open, positive environment that's just, again, so positive and empowering for everybody. There's something there for everybody. And what's interesting is like at our shows, because when I tell people this, Forbidden Fruit, we produce, we sponsor, and I co-produce and direct the Texas Burlesque Festival. And they're just like, what? I don't know what people have in their mind that they think it's going to be. I'm like, God, some of they're like, well, is it just a bunch of guys out there? I'm like, are you kidding me? It's mostly women. Oh my God. Big groups of, I mean, we've had bachelorette parties, come to this. We've had everybody. I mean, because it's about transformation on stage for the artist, which then they share in that transformation. The audience kind of gets to, share in that. And it's also about, I'm about to, do something kind of risque, and I'm not going to do it if you don't encourage me.
Right.
To do it. I'm taking my clothes off up here, people.
Right. Give me a hand. Better clap. Interact with me. Exactly.
Yeah, like, do you want me to take this off?
Right.
I don't know. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Not enough.
I think it's really empowering too, because we see so many body types in burlesque. We see so many skin colors. We see so many people from different walks of life. Yeah. And this isn't what they often do full time, sometimes for sure, but this is like their side gig. And maybe someone in the audience thinking, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Even if it's just at home in front of the mirror. I want to try that. That looks empowering. I want to try that for my husband or for my wife or
my partner.
Whoever.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun. And so my shameless plug is the Texas Burlesque Festival is this May 12th and 13th at the Rollins Theater inside the Long Center.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I love that because, I mean, the Long Center, for goodness sakes, people, this is a big city-owned art, they Incredible. Produce, all kinds of shows and stuff come through there. So I love the fact that this is the town that we live in, that when I came to them and said, I want to do the Burlesque Festival there, they were like, yeah, we'll do that.
Incredible.
And it's so funny because like one of the first times we did it, the ballet was happening upstairs. And, you would see we're all coming in through the same doors and the people come in and they would look at all of us in the burlesque community and we're all dolled up and corsets and bows and we're all just in there and they're walking and people would literally come over and like, I would see them walk up to the box officer and usher and go like, what's happening over there? And it's like, oh, it's the Texas Burlesque Festival. And, of course there were always going to be a few who were like, but then more often than not, people are like, what?
Yeah, what is that?
What is that? Oh, are there any tickets left to that?
Yeah, for sure.
So, a lot of fun. I adore the community. And to what you're saying about, shows like RuPaul's Drag Race. And I remember... and this crosses numerous, communities and stuff. Everything from when 50 Shades of Grey came out in the BDSM community, and then when Cher did burlesque, there were a bunch of people going like, "Oh my God, that's not what that 50 Shades of Grey is not what." I'm like, yeah, okay. Push comes to shove, absolutely, you're right. There's a lot of that's not the better part of what's happening and what this community is about. I said, but isn't it great that we're getting it out there and all the vanilla people in the world can now see it and go,
exactly.
Wow, I never even thought. They're destigmatizing it. It was the same thing with burlesque. I knew performers are going like, but they didn't strip. They didn't take anything. There wasn't a transformation on stage. There wasn't, they were, and I was just like, but isn't it great that more people are now interested in burlesque?
Yeah, and that
because
movie...
they kind of presented it in a safer, vanilla way, but it's piqued people's interest. And if it is moving towards the destigmatization of it, I am all for it.
Yeah, and they're always playing on the E! Channel, that burlesque. So, I mean, you see it all the time. And these are big names. So definitely, for me, actually was one of the first times that I saw what burlesque was. So definitely opening minds. And then, we have... Going back to RuPaul's Drag Race and the commercialization of drag, the commercialization of burlesque, of course, now it's becoming more of a hot topic, which means it's getting on radars of people who don't really want to see it there. Yeah. So now we're seeing this unfortunate side effect of becoming popular, and that is that we're seeing a lot of legislation now. I think there's over 400 bills that have been
It's just insane, and then people don't realize that there's actually legislation here in Texas right now that would tremendously affect the burlesque community. It's a piece of legislation where they're trying to make it to where burlesque and drag, they're trying to make it like, well, it's what they did basically to the topless bars, right? So our family members who are in there working in those bars, they basically got like, oh, well, this is now a sexually oriented business and you're going to have to pay a cover charge to come in here and you're going to have to all of this, these additional licensures and hoops that you're going to have to jump through in order to be able to present this. They're actually trying to create legislation that would require drag shows and burlesque shows to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're already having a hard enough time finding places that will
Right.
support us and allow us to do it. I can't even tell. I mean, yeah, to find places that suddenly it's like they're going to let us do it, that we can do burlesque here. I'm just like, you have no idea how difficult it is, because some places want it, but it's just not the right environment. Because let's face it, for burlesque and drag, we need a dressing room, people.
Right.
We can't get dressed in a broom closet or in the bathroom with
Right.
John Q and Jane Q Public walking through here while we're trying to, get ready. We can't, so some places, God bless them, they want it. It's just not going to work. But then when we have places that are like, yeah, we're going to do it, we're like, oh, thank you so much. But now this law, they're trying to, yeah. So I always tell people, I'm a letter writer. I'm a letter writer, and I'm an office caller, and I figure I can take enough time. I can take 5 minutes out of my day to pick up and call my senator, my congressman, my representative. I'm going to get a voicemail, but I'm going to have a well-scripted comment ready to leave on that voicemail.
Exactly.
And I'm going to write a letter. And I encourage you, if you are in a place that's doing this, it's a democracy, people. They need to hear from us. If they don't hear from us, they think they're on the right track.
Yeah.
We got to let them know. We have to be extremely vocal.
For sure.
We cannot just roll over.
We're doing the same thing in Florida. I spend half my time here in Austin, Texas, than Florida.
Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Florida's
Florida, the only state Texas can make fun of when it comes to, incredibly draconian, restrictive policies and laws.
It's crazy. And, the crazy thing to me is when I have gone to drag shows, usually they explain prior that this is more of a family-friendly event or not. So you're clearly educated and aware. Parents are smart enough to know what's best for their kids. And a lot of the time they're bringing their kids because their kids are showing signs of being in the LGBT community.
Yeah.
They want to have support. I cannot even imagine if my mom or dad would have allowed me to see that representation of what entertaining would have been like at a young age. As a young kid, I loved being in front of the camera. I wanted to be a weatherman so bad. I just wanted to entertain people.
Right.
And then as I got older, early preteen years, I realized that was a more feminine way to go. And in the eyes of my family, they thought entertainment and all of that dancing, hoo-ha-ha, was too girly. And so I immediately shut that out and really blocked that from my personality for years. And to now, I'm just now in the last few years been comfortable talking to people on camera only because I've been seeing patients over video, over television. It's really revitalized my interest in talking on camera, embracing who I am. And so I think what people don't understand is how valuable this is to those kids and to those young people who are already knowing. I knew I was gay at 5. I had my first crush in first grade, and his name was. He's still out there. I still love you. No, it's crazy. That's a funny story. We ended up actually going to the same elementary, middle, and high school, and he just was there for me mentally this whole time. But anyways, that's a whole nother topic.
It's so, but you bring up an important topic when you said parents know what's best for their kids. That's the dichotomy, and that's so hypocritical to me because so many people in that more conservative ilk are all about, it's all about them, the parents, and we have to give parents the tools they need to protect their kids. I'm sorry, but it's also giving parents the tools and the options they need to make their own decisions about what's best for their kids. How dare you tell me that taking my kid to a drag brunch or a burlesque show, so as long as it's something that you believe in, it's okay. But when it comes to something that, I believe in or I want my child exposed to, suddenly that's not okay. Suddenly you're trying to take my parental rights away.
Right.
Okay. So don't do, no.
And I mean, you don't really see too much difference when you go to the beach or a pool.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing everybody. Sometimes they're topless, laying out. Sometimes kids are getting access to this information. This is 2023. This stuff is on the internet. It's a great way for you to talk to your kids about it, because if you shield them from it or hide it from it, they're just going to be more curious.
That's exactly
They're going to be more rebellious to access that information. Have the conversation be open. and let them know, hey, drag exists. Is this something you're interested in? No? Okay, we can move on.
Moving on, yeah. Well, you are interested, curious, just want to know more about it?
Right.
Is it something? Yeah, okay. Well, at least you know it's there. You know what it is. It's like you said, it's not, that's that whole suppression environment that, I mean, as a parent who has a son in college, and I mean, my goodness, I mean, he was exposed to burlesque. I've got pictures of him 2 years old running around in rehearsal. I've got pictures of him when he was like 4 years old running around on stage at a dress rehearsal. And then he finally got to come as a young adult to his first burlesque show. Yeah. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I had to wait till you were, as a youngster, I can bring you behind the scenes, right. And stuff like that. But these shows are, 18 or 21 and up. So we finally got to go. And he was like, wow. He's like, this is so great. Yep. He's like, God, I love this. This is so wonderful because I was getting to see all the rehearsals and right. He sees all the work that I put into it. He knows so many of these, performers and stuff. He's like, wow. But to actually... He's like, thank you, Mom. Yeah. Thank you, Mom.
For sure.
Now I understand. Now I really get to see, the full circle of it. So yeah, it's like, my God, parents, be there for them.
I think too, a lot of parents, I've never been taught how to have a conversation about sex with a young person. Even as a physician, we never learned that, and we should. Yeah. And then for parents, how do they even navigate such a complex issue? People. To me, it blows my mind that you think on your 18th birthday, you're just given this enlightenment that you're now able to access information that you couldn't process 2 months before or a year before or 2 years before. You can drive a car and in many places buy a gun, but we can't let you see sexual activity because you're not ready for that.
Right.
So who decides that? Obviously society, and we come together and figure out these ideas, but we don't really give any education on how to navigate them. Here's the law, but that's it. We're not giving you anything else.
Well, it's one of the other potential positives, of the internet. And we're also blessed just because we live here in Austin. We are a speck of blue in a sea of red here, But one of the things Austin has always been known for is just, embracing its weirdness. And I just feel like we've got a lot more resources here because there is a group, an organization here in town called Unhushed, Dr. Karen Rain, and that's what they specialize in, is helping parents get the resources that they need to comfortably talk to their kids about sex and sexuality.
Wow.
So that's great. So yeah, it's out there, folks. The resources are there, but just make sure you're also, dealing with good, positive resources, people that do have the acumen, the accreditation, and that they're on the right track. They're there to dispel myths. They're there to just give you the information and let you make your own decisions about it. Right. There's no policy being spewed here. There's no opinion being. It's like, here it is. And that's what we try to do at the shop. It's like, here it is. Here's the stuff. Here's the information. Do with it what you will. Decide how it works for you or doesn't work for you.
Right. I think it's important, too, when you find a resource that is the attitude that the person explaining your options to you is. Like, this is not for everybody, but this is the information. If you have questions, I'm neither nay or yay. You help me figure out where you want to be pushed, and I will guide you that direction.
Exactly.
I think back to when the only time that my parents tried to find help for me in sexuality and learning how to adjust with me being gay, which they clearly knew at a young age. But I think around my 15, 16 years of age, they were like, okay, we need help. We don't know what to do. And they're super religious, super conservative. So they brought me to church. And so I remember sitting with the counselor guy. He was a preacher. And one of the first things he says is, why don't you like football? And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, hey, why don't you like more masculine things? We need to get you involved in more masculine things. I'm like, oh, that's going to change me.
So here's where we're headed.
Right. And so that just reinforced my parents' ideas that what I was doing was wrong, And so obviously where you get your resources, where you are being pushed, it matters. And trying to find that person who wants to be in the middle and not push you any which direction, let you kind of guide what's best for you, I think is really important. So make sure you fact check your resources.
Just fact check your resources. And, at the end of the day, and this may sound, I know I'm not trying to sound preachy, because in my mind, there is a difference between religion and spirituality.
For sure.
And there's, without going too far down that road, at the end of the day, I feel like if you are coming from a place of love, true really,
love. Yes.
True, just I love this person, and I may not understand it. I may not agree with it. It may absolutely mortify me and terrify me, but because I love you, I'm going to do everything I can to give you what you need to navigate this, whatever this is.
Exactly.
Navigate it, you know.
For sure. I think that can be sort of relayed on any type of person, whether it's your husband, your wife, your partner, your child, your friend. Yeah. Let people find their light and guide them to loving themselves more and embracing who they are more. That's, I think, what we all should do when we interact with people relationship-wise, is just, am I helping you get to be the best version of yourself?
Exactly right.
Otherwise, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
I'm not benefiting you. And so as a friend, as a husband, as a physician, as whoever you are when you're interacting with people, I think that's always something I remind myself, and something to take away is, am I adding to this person's life? Am I helping them?
Am I helping them? Yeah, exactly.
What they want. And that's what we do. You're doing that in your way. I'm doing it in my way.
Exactly. It's like I tell people, it's like I love my job.
Yeah.
I get up every day, and I do feel like, because back when I first started, yes, obviously, lots of stigma. My store was busted. I've been in front of the grand jury.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, sex toys and used to be there was a sex toy ban in Texas.
Of course there was.
February 13th, 2008, if I am not mistaken.
Wow.
It was when the law didn't get overturned, but it was deemed unenforceable. And up until that point in time, by God, if you sold something that looked like your genitalia and or its primary manufactured, distributed, or promoted purpose was for the stimulation of your genitalia, it was obscene and illegal, and to own 6 or more of said devices constituted wholesale intent to promote.
Wow.
And that's the law my store was busted on. Busted while I was actually out in California touring one of the largest adult manufacturing plants in the country.
Oh
so it's like no irony lost on me there. So yeah, the good news is we are making steps. We are things that law did finally get kind of deemed, unenforceable. But unfortunately, it's like you said, it's a pendulum, and it swings to the right and it swings to the left. And that's usually what it does. It usually swings pretty hard because that's the reaction, right?
Right.
If it's been swinging hard to the right, then it's going to just swing just as hard back to the left to, counteract that. But the good news is, at the end of the day, steps are, I think, stuff is happening. I still feel like for all the bad stuff that's out there, we still need to focus more on the good. But don't just roll over. Got to keep fighting. I remember when Trump got elected, I had friends going like, I'm leaving the country. I'm like, I'm standing and fighting.
Right. I think too, so everyone out there, including myself that's listening, if you're finding the information that, you're listening to on a podcast or the news is making you angry, it's probably not good for you.
Yeah, true that.
And it's probably not true. There's things out there that are meant to anger you because it's a very easy emotion to get someone to.
Oh, it's a flashpoint.
And it's very powerful. So always remember, if there's something you're listening to or watching and it's making you angry, you probably should turn it off.
Yeah.
If you want to learn more about it, do your own research, but that person is not trying to educate you. They're trying to
rile you up.
Agitate you.
Yeah.
And so I think when we take that away and we just listen to stories from other people, it's the best way that we can move forward.
Absolutely.
And so I'm just really glad you came today. This has been so much fun. I hope you come back.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll come do a tour of the store.
Please do.
And then we can talk about all the things that I'm going to try.
Love it. There to help you, whether it's me or it's anybody there. I mean, we are small but mighty.
Yeah.
Our staff is very well versed, and we're there to help everybody with any, nothing. Because I have people come in and going like, well, you've probably heard this before. Or maybe like, well, here's one maybe you haven't heard before. And I'm like, you know what? I'd love to hear one I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm looking to expand as well. So
for sure,
challenge me.
Yeah, me too. That's always how I try to live my life, is you got to be challenged to grow.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm excited to come in, though. I want to see stuff. I want to learn something new, and then maybe check out a workshop.
Absolutely. I've given you the schedule.
Yes.
And come and see. I know you're a fan of drag, but come to the Burlesque Festival.
I would love that. I don't know if I'm going to be in town for this particular festival, but I would love to get more information from you on how I can find other burlesque events.
There are so many amazing. You can't throw a stiletto without hitting a burlesque dancer in this town now.
Good.
So there are so many amazing troupes and performers out there performing on a regular basis, monthly residencies, monthly shows, just enough. So yes, absolutely. I will tell you how and where and when to find those shows.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And then we have more stuff to talk about for next time.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.